Yeah, I'm happy to get this paint load off my chest because they were big boys, these guys, and I've got a more regular 28mm. You can see the size of them. They weren't fun to paint. Actually, they were a lot of fun to paint, but it was quite laborious at the same time because they're just larger miniatures. So the surfaces just generally take longer to paint, and they're the plastic, like the paint was sort of sliding off it, even with 2 coats of primer. But we'll talk about them in a moment. They're pretty cool though. The backstory of them. So these two, Timo was begging me to buy them, so I did. I think he turned out really nice, the little pumpkin guy. Well, I say little pumpkin guy. He's a massive pumpkin guy. Because again, if I put a normal skeleton next to him, you know, he's a thick boy. His stand came out really well. You're going to see as I paint more models and show them to you. You're going to see these stands appear every now and then because I bought a batch of them. They didn't come with most of the stands that I have. Aren't who the stand came with. Only in the case of this, because that stand literally came with him. It's part of him. That's the only reason he is still standing on it. Because I like to sort of mix and match depending on what I fancy. Actually, these guys, they have just the simple, I think it's MDF, the simple cut of wood stand. Because why not? This guy, like, he was going to be your standard Grim Reaper, but then I gave him a nice coat of blue, and I quite liked it. So I was like, well, he'd be a blue Grim Reaper man. But as well, he's a completely unrelated model to these guys, but I'm sort of like, well, he looks like he's their friend. It's like their boss or something. This crypt thing isn't terribly good. I don't really paint the larger pieces, but I thought it turned out okay. And I do think it's going to be a sort of strength in numbers thing. Like as I paint more models for the skeleton village, as you guys know, I'm building. I think it is going to go. When it's put with everything else that's badly painted, it will go together. You see, that's my logic there. So these guys, I'm going to assume he's the boss. Well, he wasn't until that Timo dude came along. These guys, I took a little minute to work out where they came from because I found them on eBay for £4 for 3, and I bought all of them. There was 2 packs for sale, and they were just described as Dungeons and Dragons skeletons. That was how they were described, which is of course these are I think it's 54mm, 52mm figures. D&D is typically, you know, anywhere between 28 and 32 millimeters. But that is what I bought them for. So I'm still sort of like, well, they're going to be giant skeletons. So I'm all right with that. But they're not. I had to sort of look into them a little bit to work out where they came from. Because I'm sort of like, well, they're not, obviously not Dungeons and Dragons skeletons. So who are they and where do they come from? And I found they're actually Russian, from a place called I've got the site up here, from a place called Tehnolog, and I found this tiny wiki entry. I don't know how verified any of this is. This is a miniaturesworkshop.com entry, Lost Minis wiki, and Tehnolog started up in 1987, which that's a good year that is, because I also started up in 1987. Originally doing heat transfer on clothing in 1991. The market changed and they started making miniatures instead. So we've got their website there. And if I go over to their website, I did track down our boys. Or there's another article. They also are. So these are the guys. But yeah, this seems like a really cool company, because I was sort of looking through them. If I'm clicking on a random one, I'm not even looking at what I'm clicking on. But they're 50 plus millimeter miniatures. So although they're not good for your Warhammer or anything like that, they if you do need your giants or something like that, look, giant women. See, now I have to get those, don't I? It's part of my makeup. But there's like orcs as well, and there's I'm trying to look at. I'm looking through my phone as I'm filming this. Out of Vikings. But yeah, I saw there's sort of skeletons, there's orcs. I also found over here, this is on Amazon, but I do believe they are on that site. I just haven't found them on that site, and they certainly won't be that price on that site. But I think that's because it's imported or whatever. But you got these guys, these sort of cool looking robot dudes. I like the design of them, but as well, they sort of look like the robot version of these guys. So I feel even more pressured to get them, maybe for a better price than that. But I do like a variety of miniatures, and I do like just getting, especially when they're cast miniatures. Because although 3D print, I mean these guys are more like 3D printing, and you can tell due to the excessive amount of detail on them, or there's just a lot more nooks and crannies in them. When I like miniatures being hand designed. If anything, it gives it a bit more enjoyment to paint them in more than just one way, because you sort of you bring something to life that sort of, well, put it this way, it puts a lot more weight on the talent of the painting. Not that I'm talented at painting, but it's nice taking a model that doesn't necessarily look its best and making it look its best. I don't know. There's just it might just be nostalgia that I like old mold figures. But yes, that's how these guys have turned out. And over here is what we got next. Another sort of crypt thing. This one's going to be painted a little bit different from the other one. For starters, it's going to have a red roof. I'm being nice to myself because those big skeletons were quite laborious to paint. I've decided to just go for the plain skeletons for the next paint load. So these guys are most of them are nude. Let's face it, and that makes there's no skeleton easier to paint than a nude one. Because there's no clothes to worry about. But some of them, I mean, these ones are interesting. If I can get you to focus. I mean, he's as basic as it gets. I mean, when I want to make a skeleton village, he's a great guy to have because he's just a plain skeleton. Just going about his day, But these ones were kind of interesting because they were made... they were 3D printed. They're kind of rubbery. I'm not sure what kind of resin that is, unless it's just literally rubber. But these guys all purchased together for quite a cheap price. I can't remember the price off the top of my head now. But they were all one piece. They were printed in a single, because they're skeletons and they're skinny. They were arranged in the 3D file all together so they could be printed in a relatively small printer and then sold as one block, and then they arrived as one block, and I sort of had to break them apart. I think it's a very fair way to do it, especially when they're miniatures as simple as this. They're just very simple skeleton miniatures. The only problem is I had to give them slightly bigger bases because they are slightly wider in nature. Like look at this chap's stance. That's like a Bruce Dickinson stance right there. And he only got this one for the sake of consistency. He didn't need one that big. But yeah, so we got all these skeletons. That bloke, I think he's different. He doesn't belong to any of the ones here. I think he actually came with a scenery set, this guy. But he's a skeleton. Just because he's inanimate. Wait, hang on a moment. No, he is animate. He's an animate skeleton. There we go. That's relatively simple, this one. I mean, even that there. That's going to be the difficult bit, but I also don't think so. I think it just looks like it is. I'm probably, to paint it, I'm probably going to have to stick the brush through there. But it is relatively simple what's going on in here. Like, I think there's some bottles and stuff, and that'll just be... Or is it skulls? Beg your pardon. It is skulls. I'm not sure if you can see that. It is skulls. And a lamp, that'll probably be bronze. And then two other things. I don't know what those two other things are. I'm not sure the printer was aware of what those other two things are. But just maybe I'll put some black on it or something. Who knows? Either way, it'll turn out all right. So that's me with my next paint escapades. I don't know. Trying to work out what to call these guys because they're like a sort of faction, aren't they? And it looks like that's where they live. They could fit under there. They're skeletons, so they just crawl on top of each other. Be the weirdest cult ever. Anyway, yes, thanks for watching. I'll talk to you guys soon. See you later.